G'day fellas. Today we're going to be talking about team decks and the cards that you want to be placing in your team decks. So we've previously done a video on 1v1 decks, and ideally with that video I wanted to be able to give you the skills that you needed to identify which cards you needed for your own main civilization and then implement those cards into your own decks. A lot of the feedback that I received was very Swedish specific, so I'm going to be taking a different approach with the team cards. We're going to begin with the Chinese. So what I've done is I've prepared a 1v1 deck for the Chinese, where I'd be looking to fast fortress and have the option of defending as well. And with the same token, my opponent wouldn't know whether I was going to be playing at second age or third age, or even potentially going to the fourth age. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this deck and I'm going to create a new deck. I'm going to call it Team. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to identify the cards that aren't going to be useful to me in team games. So how does a team game play differently to a 1v1? Well, first of all, there's a big ball of units. There's not just a small ball of units that's yours. There's a big ball of units that 2 or 3 people are contributing to. So that means that we don't need unit shipments as much as we do in 1v1 because our units aren't going to contribute to the mass to the same degree that it would in a 1v1. So what we're going to do is start by removing cards like 14 Kyung Pikemen. We're going to remove our Iron Flails, we're going to remove our Meteor Hammers, we're going to remove our Manchu. We're also going to remove the second age cards that we don't need. So we're going to get rid of the Mandarin Duck Squad, even though we love them. We've got to let them go. And we're going to leave these 3 in. This is because we may be playing age 2 in a team game, and we need to keep these just in case. So what we're going to be looking at is replacing these. So we're looking for economic replacements first and foremost. So your big ones here, Royal Mint and Refrigeration. These cards, really, really important in team games. You've got to have these cards. In every single civilization that's got these, you've got to be running these cards. There's a few exceptions, like as an example with the Dutch, you don't want to be using Royal Mint, just because you're not going to be really using estates, so it's not something that you need to have. So now that we've included those 2 cards, we've still got 3 cards left. So now we're going to look for unit upgrades. What unit upgrades do we have that could potentially impact the game? So we've got here Chokuno and Arquebuser attack increase and do extra damage to light cav and heavy infantry. That sounds good. Let's put that in the deck. Still got 2 slots here. Now we've got, this is an age 4 one, so everything does increase damage and has increased hit points. That's perfect. We're going to play late game. In team games a lot more than we're going to be playing in single or in 1v1. So that's a good card. Another good card right here. This is the double-faced armor. It gives you a bit more flexibility. It enables you to have tankier cavalry. Then we can go over some of the other upgrades and see if they're worth including. So we've got here, they do more, Step Riders do more against villages and buildings. Keshiks do more against heavy cavalry and coyotes, and Iron Flames do more against archers and skirmishers. That's a pretty big upgrade, and it's important that we have something like that in our deck. So now we need to add up and make a decision. Is there anything in the second age that we can get rid of? So I'm looking and I'm thinking 600 gold. We can get rid of that. We can put this one in instead. So now we've got Mongolian Scourge, and that's our team deck. So our team deck is more focused on economy, it's more focused on upgrades. Now, if you said to yourself, alright, this is my 1v1 deck, this is my team deck, but with the guys that I play with, I only rush. I don't ever go for an FF in team games. Well, you know what you can do? You can get rid of these 2 unit shipments. You're not going to need to use them. Because if you're playing second age, the games where you get to the third age, you're already going to have a relatively large mass of units. And by adding just, 10 Changdaos, or 10 Arquebusers, or 11 Changdaos, it's not going to impact on the status of the game. But you know what would impact on the status of the game? More economic upgrades. So, you can use food silos. Now, when it comes to third age, it's normally best to go textile mill, because it gives 25% over, say, the 20% that the cigar roller gives. And so there you go. Now you've got a heavy economic deck. If you get to the late game and you've shipped all 4 of these cards, you're going to be well ahead of the game. Not to mention all the unit upgrades that you've got in here. So that's how a team deck differentiates from a 1 versus 1 deck. There's a lot less coin and unit shipments, or a lot less resource shipments and unit shipments, and a lot more of a focus on the economic upgrades and the unit upgrades. So the next civilization that we're going to be taking a look at is the Dutch. So we'll start off with the Dutch, looking at the land. So we're going to go Team Water. And so we can see with the Dutch, we've already got a huge amount of unit shipments. Now, the Dutch typically do hit age 3 quite early in team games. So we're still going to leave a couple of unit shipments in. But what we're going to do is include a lot more economic upgrades. So we're going to start with the refrigeration, really important card, and food silos. Typically, Dutch late game, you're going to be on mills a lot. So these are really good cards. Now, we also have space in here for sustainable agriculture. So we'll get that one up there. And now it's about determining, if there's anything else in here that you can live without. These are all really important Dutch cards. You can probably get rid of the 3 hussars. Now, what can you put in its place? Well, there's nothing really in here that you need as a Dutch player. You don't need any of these upgrades for rice paddies or for estates, because you're not going to be building any estates. You don't need royal mint. You're not going to be out mining gold. You've got all the gold that you need in your banks. So it comes back to looking for unit upgrades. Now, as a Dutch, you don't have many unit upgrades. You've got the halberdier upgrade, you've got the grenade launcher. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in the way that you play. It means that you can include more cards for the 4th age. So you could include infinite falconets if you wanted. You could include 1600 wood if you wanted. Realistically though, looking at this deck, I'd probably get rid of the 2 falconets and I'd be putting in Advanced Arsenal. So Advanced Arsenal is going to give you an extra 10 and 15% on your health and attack through the upgrades that it's got. It's also going to give you an extra 10% speed, which is going to mitigate religious freedom from your church. So when you get the +2 banks, you lose 10% of military speed. The 8 plaques is going to enable you to have early game defense. And if you do fast fortress, you're still going to be able to ship routers, you're still going to be able to ship skirmishers, and you've got plenty of upgrades in here. So you can see the difference. Heaps of units versus, that's Team Water. Did I call that Team Water? That's meant to be Team Land. I'll delete that. I apologize to everybody who was watching up until this point and was like, "It's called Team Water. Why'd you call it Team Water?" So, just comparing the difference, you can see the difference of economic cards for 1v1 versus team. Just 1, 2, 3. Lots of those mill cards, lots more unit upgrades. So the next civilization that we're going to be looking at is the Germans. Now, the Germans are a very interesting team civ, and the reason why is because they've got a card in the 3rd age called the Germantown Farmers. So we're going to copy across, so just to show you guys, this is the German 1v1 deck. This is a very standard deck. It's been around for a long time. The idea is you're going to go, 2 settler wagons, you're going to hit up to the 3rd age, and then you're just going to ship all of these units. So if we were to play a team land as the Germans, what differences would we make? Well, we wouldn't be including 600 wood. We'd probably be keeping the 600 coin, but we wouldn't be including the 3 doppels. We definitely wouldn't have 7 skirms, we definitely wouldn't have 8 ulans, and we probably wouldn't have mercenaries. The reason why is that mercenaries in team games, they don't have as big of an impact. The Jaegers are still important, and they're very potent, but the Black Riders, they're not so much because your teammates are going to have dragoons. The reason why Black Riders are so important to the Germans in 1v1 is because the war wagons are a lot slower than normal dragoons, so it's difficult to chase around raiding cavalry. Black Riders do a great job of that. So we're going to get rid of those, and we're looking for unit upgrades. So we've got a unit upgrade right here, really important, Spanish Riding School. So that's our first one. We're going to make sure that we include Germantown Farmers. This is going to make us an economic powerhouse. And we're going to go through and we're going to double check if there's any military cards that we want. We've already got all of our cavalry upgrade cards. You can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we've got this Polish Winged Hussar shipment. This is a really, really good shipment in 1v1, but in team it's not so strong, so we're going to remove it. And now we're going to look at what our options are when it comes to economic upgrades. So we've got 4 slots, and we've got plenty of room to play in both Age 3 and Age 2. So the first thing I absolutely go for is this card here. So guild artisans. So a 35% increase on settler wagons. That's essentially, so a settler wagon gathers at twice the rate of a normal settler. So you're getting, it's 2 settlers. And then on 35% on top of that, now you've got 2.6 settlers on each one. So it's a 35% upgrade to everything that they do. Now keep in mind though, that's only affecting 20 settler wagons. That's the maximum that you can build. So it's only a percentage of your population. But the thing is, you're going to be hitting the 20 settler or the 20 settler wagon limit quite early in the game. Once you ship this card, you're going to be hitting it very soon after. So it's a card that I do like to include. Then you're also going to be including those big ones, refrigeration, as well as royal mint. So that's going to fill you out here. And then it's up to you which way you go. Ideally, though, you're probably going to be wanting to be putting in textile mill and trying to find space for it in here. It's really important that we get textile mill because it's 25% versus the 20% from cigar roller. So we could just pop cigar roller in here. But by doing that, then we miss out on that 5%. So then the question comes, is there something that we can let go of out of here? And the answer, unfortunately, is no. These are all really, really important cards. They're going to enable us if we do fast fortress. We're going to be able to get up. We're going to be able to ship unit shipment. Then we can ship wood for our town center if we need to. And then eventually we can get Germantown farmers out and we're going to be booming in no time. So that's the difference in a team deck and a 1v1 deck for the Germans. All right, so we're going to move on. Moving on to the final civ. I haven't decided which civilization it is yet. So luck of the draw. I'm looking. I'm thinking the French. Let's do the French. They're always good fun. So we've got some 1v1 decks in here. So you can see that's our 1v1. Another very standard FF deck. And then our water deck. So we just take out, what cards do we take out? The 7 skirmisher and the 600 wood, it looks like. And we just put in 2 ships. So we're going to copy the 1v1 land deck. And we'll make it a team land. And so it's going to be that same thing. So if we're still going to be typically as French going to the fortress age quite quickly, but we're not going to be needing 7 skirms. We're not going to be needing 4 goons, and we're most definitely not going to be needing 600 or 600 wood or 600 coin. So it gives us plenty of space in here. Now French, you're always going to be wanting to spam that cavalry. So we've got all of our cavalry upgrades. We've also got thoroughbreds in here. Even though it doesn't make the training time instant anymore, we still love it. Now, because it's team, we're shipping team ranged infantry. Even though we're not probably going to be making any team infantry, or we're not going to be making any ranged infantry, we're not going to be making skirms, our teammates probably will. And so we're going to have that card because we may need it for them. Now, there's other options, like you can send team early skirms as well. This gives you the opportunity to build skirms. I typically wouldn't recommend it. If you want skirmishes in a matchup, you probably should have gone Dutch. It's a waste of a card early. There are circumstances in 1v1 like French mirrors that last really long in age 2. Then you can send team early skirms, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense otherwise. So in a team game, you're going to be wanting to train your cavalry much faster than in 1v1. In 1v1, you're more worried about resources, so we're going to include that. Then finally, we're going to put in our most important cards, refrigeration. We're going to look for a card here that we can get rid of. You know what? We can probably get rid of 3 cuirassiers. We'll try and get rid of 3 cuirassiers. Let's put 8 skirm back in our deck. Now, the reason why we're getting rid of 3 cuirassiers is just because the impact from having 3 cuirassiers isn't really a lot. It's not particularly game-changing, whereas these do have the potential to chase down a raid or to turn a fight or to be able to provide backup to the Minutemen, even if you're getting pushed by 3 people. Whereas the cuirassiers are just going to get microed to death. It's not until you hit a critical mass with your cuirassiers, once you've got that golden number around 13 to 15, that's when you're really going to start to see the tides turn. So with that, we're going to continue by putting in our upgrade cards. So now we've got our 2 economic cards. And we're faced with a choice. Do we keep the Jaegers in our deck when we know that we're going to be going full cavalry? Probably not. We're not going to bother. So we're going to get rid of that. We're going to include textile mill. So now that we've got textile mill, we've got economic theory already, so we don't need to worry about including that in our deck. So we've got one more card right here. So we've already got 2 upgrades for our plantations. Let's include one more for our mill. And so that's it. So the differences between the 1v1 decks and the team decks, it's all about using your economic upgrades. And it's important to note that as the team games grow bigger, the more and more economic upgrades you're going to include, the more and more unit upgrades you're going to include. For a 2v2, your deck is going to be looking a lot more like this. You might just, you might just take out these 2 cards and just place these 2 cards in it. So that might be your 2v2 deck. That's all the difference it is. But when it's 3v3, it's a whole different way the game is played. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and been able to take something away from it. I know that I haven't gone through all civilizations, but I hope I'm able to give you the tool so that you're able to go through your own civilization and determine what cards you think are suitable. If you've enjoyed the video, I encourage you to leave a like, as it really helps out the video. And thank you very much for watching.